What's up, everybody? I figure it's long overdue. Been putting it off for a while, but it's time to rebuild the shocks on the 5T. I had the truck almost a year now. I probably should have rebuilt them at least once already, at least changed the fluid, but I haven't. I actually rebuilt the rear shocks last night, so they're all redone. The rebuild kit is actually a really nice kit, and it costs about 16 bucks. Part number is LOSB 2856. It includes all the O-rings that you need to get. It also includes new shock boots. One thing I am going to point out, I'm going to be rebuilding the front shocks. The procedure on the front is the same as the procedure on the rear. The only difference is when you're rebuilding the shocks, the kit includes 8 lower shock O-rings. It's 2 per shock on the bottom. It includes 4 O-rings for these. Actually go on the preload collar. This would actually provides tension for the preload collar. It also includes 4 lower O-rings where the lower cap goes on that actually secures the lower O-rings. All these are the same except for the top O-rings. The top O-rings, they're actually they're almost like cups. They're I guess you can call them diaphragms in a way. When you go to do the top cups, make sure they're marked. Do not put the fronts in the rears and the rears in the front. The rears are marked by an R. I already used the rears, but you can see on the old ones, let's see if you can see that. The rear is clearly marked. I don't know if you can see that. It's marked with an R. So because the rear caps are a little bit larger than the tops. As far as oil, the Losi 5 runs just regular synthetic shock oil. It does not run fork oil as the HPI Baja does. So don't put fork oil in your Losi. It doesn't need it. It's actually cheaper to run silicone than fork oil. Depending on whatever weight you choose to run, that's up to you. Stock weight is 30 weight. I'm actually going to try something a little bit less for the type of driving that I do. I ran 25 weight silicone oil in the back. I will be running 20 weight in the front. It is a little bit lighter than what I do, but the way I run the truck, I think that's going to be better suited to me. As far as how much oil these take, I was actually shocked. I bought 4 bottles, 2 bottles of 25 and 2 bottles of 20, thinking each shock was going to take a bottle. I was actually surprised to know that the rear shocks took 1 bottle, 2 ounces of silicone shock fluid. That was all that was required. So if you guys are looking to do a rebuild or even just change the fluid out, 1 bottle for a pair of shocks will be plenty. Another thing that I picked up in ease of assembly when changing the O-rings, you can use like a non-synthetic grease. I picked up this. It's called green slime. It actually just helps to lube the O-rings when you're putting them back together. Disassembling these shocks is actually a pretty simple procedure. It only takes maybe 5 minutes per shock. So what you would do is just simply, obviously unbolt them from the truck. You have a 10 millimeter nut on top and then a 3 millimeter Allen on the bottom. Just keep in mind that the lower screws that go into the control arm, the black one, if I'm not mistaken, the black one on the right side is clockwise thread, and then the silver one on the left side is counterclockwise. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, one's clockwise, one's counterclockwise. So to remove the shock, to get it all done, clean up as much debris as you can off the shock before you start the process. Also, before I forget, the tools that are required, the 5T actually comes with a set of tools that work great. It comes with the wheel nut wrench. I don't use this to take my wheels on and off. However, this is actually very good because this will actually slide over and hold the bottom of the shock. If you don't have this or whatever, a 1-inch wrench will work just fine. To turn the top shock eyelet, again, this is one of the tools that was included in the truck. It actually slides right over the top. But I mean, if you wanted to, you can just put like a bar or something in there, or even like a screwdriver to help turn it. And then finally, this actually holds the bottom of the shock. But again, if you don't have this, you can, I think, use like a 6mm wrench or even just a pair of pliers. So to get it all started, just take the collar, pull the collar back. I'm trying to do this off camera for a second, and just take the collar and just slide it off. Once you have the collar slid off, take the spring off. As you can see, my boots are actually pretty deformed, and actually my rear boots were physically ripped. So again, the new kit comes with new boots. So just to take it off, just grab the boot and just remove it and just slide it down. You can either leave it on or however you decide to do it, but now it's off, and you can actually see that I mean, I still have some oil in the fronts. The rears were pretty much destroyed. There was nothing left of the rears. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your wheel nut wrench or a 1-inch wrench, whatever you decide to use, slide over the bottom, and there's hexes at the bottom of the shock. That locks in. Now the shock is held tight. You can either take the tool that I showed you, or you can even take like a screwdriver, put it in here and turn it. I have the tool, so I'm gonna pop it on here and just turn it loose. It wasn't that tight. So just take your, I have a cup with all my old fluid in it. And actually, hopefully I can get this on video so you guys can see how nasty this fluid actually is. Actually, surprisingly not, the fronts are in very good condition. Yeah, the fronts are actually pretty clean. Backs were nasty. But needless to say, we're going to clean them anyway. So once that's pulled apart, you're going to want to take your piston out. To take your piston out, just take the tool. There's a little notch in the bottom of the shock tower, in the bottom of the piston rod. Just slide the tool over it or a pair of pliers and grab the eyelet and just turn it. Normally, sometimes you need a little extra oomph. If that's the case, use just a screwdriver in there just to turn it. Take the piston and just push all the way through. Once the piston's out, just remove the piston and set it aside. And obviously, all these parts are going to be cleaned thoroughly. The bottom of the shock, you're going to remove the cap. It just unscrews. And that is going to reveal the O-rings. Easiest tool to get this out with is you take your piston and you just take the O-ring and you hook it. There's a nylon spacer in between that you have to save. It does not come with the kit. So that just pulls right out. Set that aside, and then take the other O-ring and just slide it off. If you can get it hooked. And just pull the O-ring right out. Lastly, you're going to take the lower O-ring that's on here. You can use your fingernail or however you can to hook it. What I'm going to use, I'm going to use a pair of scissors just to get underneath it because I can't find my tuning screwdriver, and just pop this O-ring right off. And of course I can't do it right now. And now the O-ring is off. And one thing I will tell you is to make sure, to make it easier, just make sure you set your parts aside, your old O-rings from your new, so you don't accidentally reuse your old O-ring. Lastly, we're going to go into the shock cap and we're going to remove the bladder. So you set your bladder aside. Again, make sure that when you put it back together, look at the bladders. The rear, do not use a rear bladder and the front bladder. They are marked, the rear is marked with an R for rear. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to step aside. I'm going to clean my shock bodies. I'm going to clean my shock cap and the piston, and I'll get back and we'll reassemble the shock. So we'll catch you in a minute.